I don't remember the first word she said that day, only the sound of her voice, low and unhurried, as if nothing in the world could rush her. She leaned against the doorway of the kitchen, arms folded, watching me crouch beneath her sink with a wrench that felt too heavy in my hand. Her name was Clara. Mid-40s, hair pinned up in a way that looked accidental but never was. The kind of woman who didn't try to fill the silence, she just let it hang, daring you to break it. I was 23. I'd moved into her building a few months earlier. She rented me the cheapest unit on the top floor, no frills, barely furnished. That afternoon, she'd called because the kitchen faucet wouldn't stop leaking. I told her I could take a look. The truth was, I didn't know much about fixing sinks, but I knew I wanted more time near her. The pipes clanged when I turned the wrench, the sound too loud in the quiet of her kitchen. Behind me, I could hear the faint rhythm of her breathing. She didn't leave the room, she stayed, leaning in the doorway as though curious about the way I worked. "You're not really a plumber, are you?" she asked. Her tone was light, but it pressed on me. I glanced over my shoulder. She was smiling, not mocking, not amused exactly, but with an edge I couldn't quite name. "I can manage," I said. My voice came out steadier than I felt. Her eyes lingered on me a moment too long before she looked away, brushing a strand of hair back from her face. That small movement, careless, maybe, sent a shiver through me. The sink gave a final metallic groan as I tightened the pipe. I reached for the rag she'd left on the counter, and that's when it happened. Her hand brushed mine. Not deliberate, not withdrawn either. Just there, soft and warm against my fingers, long enough to notice, short enough to doubt. I looked up. She was closer now, standing beside me instead of across the room. The air between us thickened. Her perfume, faint, woody, something like cedar, wrapped around me. "Thank you," she said quietly. But she didn't move back. The faucet dripped once, twice, then stilled. The room seemed to grow too small. I caught myself staring at the line of her collarbone, the way her blouse dipped slightly as she leaned closer to test the tap. She noticed. I could tell, the pause in her breath, the stillness of her hand on the counter. I wanted to speak, to joke, to break the tension, but nothing came out. She turned her head slowly, met my eyes, and for the first time, didn't look away. Seconds stretched. The hum of the refrigerator filled the silence. She reached past me, close enough that her shoulder grazed mine. She turned the faucet once more, though it didn't need turning. Her lips parted slightly as if she might say something, but instead she exhaled, long and quiet. And then, the sound, the click of the front door shutting. I turned sharply. She hadn't moved toward it. The handle glinted in the dim kitchen light. She had closed it. Her gaze came back to me, steady now, unreadable. For a moment neither of us spoke. The room seemed to hold its breath, waiting for what would happen next. The sound of the door shutting still hung in the air. It was small, final, like the period at the end of a sentence neither of us had written. Clara didn't explain. She just stayed there, her hand still resting on the faucet, her body close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating off her. My pulse thudded in my throat, but she turned away first, walking toward the counter with the kind of deliberate calm that made everything feel even heavier. "You really didn't have to," she said, reaching for a glass, filling it with water. "The super could have taken care of it tomorrow." "I didn't mind," I said. It came out too quick, almost defensive. Her shoulders lifted in a half shrug. She took a sip, then set the glass down, but didn't look at me. For a moment, I thought maybe I'd imagined everything, the door, the touch, the way she'd held my gaze. Then she spoke again. "You remind me of someone." I waited. She didn't finish the thought. I straightened, wiping my hands on the rag, buying time. The silence pressed. "Who?" I asked finally. Her laugh was short, a breath more than a sound. "Doesn't matter." But it did. The way she tightened her arms across her chest told me it mattered more than she wanted to admit. I watched her for a moment, wondering. She was too young to sound world-weary, too graceful to look burdened, but something in her voice carried weight. I didn't push. I was still a tenant, still a kid in her eyes maybe, though the way she looked at me tonight said otherwise. I sat at the small kitchen table, more to steady myself than to rest. "I've never really fixed anything before," I said, trying to lighten the air. That got her attention. She turned, one brow raised. "Never?" "Not like that," I admitted. "Mostly I just break things." Her lips curved, not quite a smile. "At least you're honest." We stayed like that, words catching on pauses, glances brushing longer than they should. I kept noticing things I shouldn't. The way her blouse slipped slightly off one shoulder, the faint freckle at the base of her neck, the restless motion of her fingers against the glass as if she needed something to do with her hands. She caught me watching once. Instead of looking away, she tilted her head, studying me back, the kind of look that didn't let you hide. My stomach tightened. I wanted to ask her then, about her life, about the person I reminded her of. But she shifted, leaning against the counter with a sigh. "I was married once," she said finally, voice softer now. "It didn't last." Her eyes drifted toward the window, where the city lights flickered faintly through the glass. "These days, I keep to myself. It's easier that way." I didn't know what to say. Easier wasn't what I saw in her face. Lonelier, maybe. "I'm sorry," I offered. She gave a small shake of her head. "Don't be. We make our choices." Her words lingered, and so did the distance in her tone. I wanted to close it, but I didn't know how. So instead, I stood, meaning to leave, to give her space. That's when her hand touched my arm. Light, barely there, but enough to stop me. "You did well," she said quietly. Her fingers lingered just above my elbow, her thumb brushing the fabric of my shirt like she was testing its texture. Her eyes met mine again, steadier this time, as if she wanted me to see what she wasn't saying. The moment stretched, fragile but undeniable. I could feel the warmth of her skin through the thin cotton, could hear the faint catch of her breath when I didn't step back. She let go first, drew her hand back, turned away, busied herself with the rag I'd left on the counter. But that touch stayed. It burned on my arm, impossible to ignore. When I finally moved toward the door, she didn't stop me. She only said my name once, soft, almost like a question. I turned. She was standing there with the rag twisted in her hands, her eyes locked on mine. And though no words followed, the silence between us wasn't empty anymore. It was charged, alive, waiting. The days after fixing her sink blurred into something I couldn't name. Every time I passed her door on the way upstairs, I slowed. Sometimes I heard music faintly playing, or the scrape of a chair against the floor. Once, I thought I caught her shadow moving behind the curtains, and it stopped me cold. I told myself to keep distance. She was my landlady, twice my age, and still, when she finally asked if I could help her with a lamp that wouldn't stay upright, I said yes before she'd even finished the sentence. Her apartment felt different that evening. Warmer somehow, dimmer light pooling across the kitchen, a faint smell of wine in the air. She led me to the living room, where a crooked floor lamp leaned against the wall. "I think it's broken," she said. "I'll take a look." The lamp wasn't broken. A screw had come loose, easy to tighten. But she stayed near, close enough that I felt her presence pressing against the edges of my focus. My hands moved, but my attention stayed on the way her hair brushed against her collarbone, the way she leaned a little too close when she didn't have to. "You're good with your hands," she murmured. I froze. It was nothing, just words, but her tone was too careful, too deliberate. When I turned, she was already looking away, pretending to adjust a stack of books on the table. Before I could think, there was a knock at the door. Sharp, quick, too sudden. She stiffened. So did I. Her neighbor's voice carried through the wood. "Clara, you home?" Clara glanced at me, her eyes wide in a way I hadn't seen before, unguarded, almost panicked. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she pressed a finger to her lips. The silence stretched. My chest hammered. Finally she called back, voice casual. "Busy right now. Can it wait?" A pause. Then footsteps retreating down the hall. I let out the breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Clara leaned against the wall, shoulders dropping, but she didn't laugh it off. She didn't explain. "That was close," I said quietly. Her eyes flicked to mine. "It can't be close," she whispered. "Not even a little." The words stung more than they should have, but even as she said them, she stepped nearer. Maybe she didn't mean to. Maybe she couldn't help it. The lamp was fixed, standing tall beside us now, but neither of us looked at it. She was so close I could see the faint crease at the corner of her mouth, the line where her lipstick had worn off. I wanted to kiss her. The thought hit me hard, urgent, undeniable. And for a second, I thought she wanted it too. Her eyes dipped to my mouth, then back up, fast, guilty. But she turned her head, brushing past me as though the room had grown too small. "You should go," she said softly. I didn't move. She stopped at the counter, hands flat against it, her back rising and falling with uneven breaths. Then she spoke again, barely above a whisper. "This, whatever this is, it can't happen." The word said one thing. Her trembling fingers on the countertop said another. I crossed the space between us without meaning to. Close enough now that her perfume wrapped around me again, close enough to feel the heat from her skin. My hand hovered at her shoulder, almost touching, not quite. She didn't turn. She didn't step away either. We stood there, suspended in that fragile almost, breath to breath, heartbeats tangled, silence heavy with everything we weren't saying. I couldn't stop thinking about that moment in her kitchen, the almost touch, the silence strung so tight it threatened to snap. Days passed, but it followed me. Every creak of her floorboards above my unit set me on edge, every glimpse of her in the stairwell made my throat dry. I told myself to stay away, but I didn't. When she called again, this time about a drafty window, I was there before I'd even thought it through. She met me at the door, barefoot, her sweater hanging loose at one shoulder. She didn't look surprised to see me. If anything, she looked expectant. The living room was cooler than usual, the window cracked slightly. She motioned to it. Won't close properly. I tested the frame. The wood had swollen with the weather, nothing serious. But my hands moved slower than they should have, buying time, stretching the moment. She stayed close, hovering behind me, her breath brushing the back of my neck. You're avoiding me, she said suddenly. The words caught me off guard. I straightened, turning toward her. She didn't flinch. Am I? Her eyes narrowed, sharp but trembling underneath. You think I don't notice? The way you look at me, then disappear for days. I opened my mouth, but nothing came. My pulse thundered. She stepped closer, so close her shoulder grazed my chest. If you want something, say it. Her voice was low, steady, but her hands betrayed her. One clutched the hem of her sweater, twisting the fabric, as if holding herself back. I shouldn't, I whispered. Her gaze locked on mine. Then don't. But the way she said it, soft, pleading under the sharpness, made the air crackle. My hand lifted before I could stop it, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. My fingers lingered against her temple, sliding back into her hair. She didn't move. She leaned into the touch, almost imperceptibly, but enough. Her breath caught. Mine followed. You have no idea what you're doing, she said, but her voice broke in the middle of the sentence. Then tell me, I murmured, my face so close to hers now I could feel the warmth of her breath on my lips. She closed her eyes, just for a second. When they opened, the guard she always carried was gone. What replaced it was raw, unhidden longing, and fear tangled in it. This is wrong, she whispered. Then stop me. Silence. Heavy, unbearable. Her hand came up, pressing lightly against my chest, not pushing me back, just resting there, fingers curling against the fabric of my shirt. She could feel my heartbeat racing beneath it. I bent closer, every nerve alight. My nose brushed hers. Her lips parted, the smallest sound escaping, a shaky exhale that made me tremble. The moment hung there, trembling, inevitable. And then, her phone buzzed on the counter. Loud in the silence. She flinched, pulled back a fraction, her hand still on my chest. The screen lit up with a name I couldn't see from where I stood. She didn't reach for it. Her eyes darted to mine, wide, caught between fear and desire. Neither of us moved. Then, finally, she spoke, barely a whisper, but enough to break everything open. Tell me you don't want this, and I'll let you go. Her words hung in the air like a challenge. Tell me you don't want this. I couldn't. The silence between us said more than anything I could have spoken. Her phone buzzed again, louder this time, the vibration rattling against the countertop. She finally glanced at it, and that's when I saw the name flash across the screen. Daniel. She reached quickly, flipping the phone face down. Too quickly. Who's Daniel? The question slipped out before I could stop it. Her eyes flicked up to mine. For a second, she looked furious. Then her face softened into something harder to take, resignation. My ex, she said. But the way her hand clenched around the phone told me that wasn't the whole truth. I didn't push. Not right away. The space between us had shifted, no longer just about closeness, but about something sharper, dangerous. I could feel the pulse in her wrist where she still gripped the phone, could see the tremor in her jaw as if she was holding back words. Finally, she exhaled. We never really ended it. Not cleanly. He still calls. He still thinks there's something left. Her shoulders dropped as though saying it out loud cost her something. And is there? I asked, my voice low, more raw than I meant it to be. She took a step back. Just one, but it sliced the air between us. No, the word came fast, too fast. I moved after her, not touching, just close enough that she felt the heat of me again. Then why do you answer? Her lips parted, but no sound came. She shook her head, looking away. Her hand trembled as she set the phone down, as though it had burned her. I reached out, almost without thinking, my fingers brushing the back of her hand. She didn't pull away. Instead, her shoulders slumped, her breath catching in that small, unsteady way I'd started to recognize. It's not that simple, she whispered. Her eyes met mine again, and for the first time, I saw it. Shame, buried under the layers of control she usually wore so tightly. Shame, and something else. Fear. Of me? Of herself? I couldn't tell. He still thinks he has a claim on me, she said. And maybe I've let him, out of habit. Out of not wanting to be alone. The last word fell into the room like glass shattering. Before I could answer, she stepped past me, too close, her shoulder brushed against my chest, her hair grazing my cheek as she moved toward the window. I turned with her, every nerve alive, fighting not to reach out and pull her back. "You're too young to understand," she said quietly, staring out at the dark city. That cut deeper than I expected. I swallowed, moving closer until I stood just behind her. "I understand what it feels like to want something you shouldn't." She froze, the faintest tremor running through her. My words hovered against the nape of her neck, close enough that my breath stirred a strand of her hair. Slowly, she turned to face me. The distance between us was gone now. My hand lifted again, almost of its own accord, tucking her hair behind her ear. My fingertips lingered at her jaw. She leaned into the touch this time, her eyes fluttering shut for one aching second. Then she opened them again, wide and clear, staring straight into me. "If we start this," she whispered, her voice shaking, "I can't go back. Not to him. Not to the way things were." Her confession hit me like a jolt. Not just about Daniel, but about us. This wasn't a game anymore. Whatever we did next, there'd be no pretending it hadn't happened. Her phone buzzed again on the counter, insistent. She didn't move to answer it. Instead, she stepped closer, close enough that her sweater brushed my chest, close enough that I could feel the uneven rhythm of her breathing against me. Her hand lifted, hesitated, then pressed flat against my chest again, right over my heart. "We're past the point of pretending," she whispered. The words landed like a spark on dry wood, everything around us ready to ignite. Her hand stayed pressed against my chest, her pulse trembling against my heartbeat. Neither of us spoke. The silence stretched, the room too small for all the things we hadn't said. Her sweater brushed against me again when she shifted slightly closer. Inches, just inches, separated us. I could smell her perfume, warmer now, threaded with something faintly sharp, like wine on her breath. "You should go," she whispered. Her lips said one thing. Her hand didn't move. I bent my head lower, my voice almost in her ear. "Do you want me to?" Her breath caught. I felt it against my throat. For a second, I thought she'd push me back, end it here. Instead, her fingers curled tighter into my shirt, as though anchoring herself. "This is a mistake," she said. "Maybe," I answered, my forehead almost brushing hers now. "But so is pretending." Her eyes closed, and in that fragile pause, I knew she was weighing everything: Daniel, the years between us, the risk of being seen, the ache of loneliness she'd admitted only once. And then, she leaned in. Not a kiss, not yet, but close enough that the tip of her nose brushed mine, close enough that her exhale shuddered across my lips. I froze, because this was the moment, the line. If I moved that last inch, there would be no taking it back. I whispered her name. "Clara." Her eyes opened, dark, unsteady. "Don't say it like that." "Like what?" "Like you mean it." The words broke something loose inside me. My hand lifted, trembling slightly as I brushed her hair back from her face, my thumb grazing her cheek. She leaned into it, a soft, involuntary sound escaping her throat that made my chest tighten. "Then tell me to stop," I said. Her lips parted. No sound came. Instead, she closed the space between us. It wasn't a neat kiss, not something cinematic. It was messy, searching, almost desperate, like two people who had been circling a flame too long and finally stepped into it. Her hands gripped my shirt, pulling me closer. Mine slid up her back, holding her against me as if she might disappear. For a moment, everything else fell away. The phone on the counter, the outside world, the rules we'd drawn in silence, all gone. There was only the warmth of her mouth, the tremor of her breath, the undeniable truth of what we both wanted. When she pulled back, her forehead rested against mine, her chest rising and falling hard. "We can't take this back," she whispered. "I don't want to," I answered. Her laugh was shaky, almost disbelieving. She pressed her palm to my cheek, searching my eyes like she was trying to find a reason to step away, and not finding one. "I'm too old for you," she said. "You're exactly who I want," I replied, the words spilling out before I could stop them. Her lips curved, not quite a smile, not quite surrender either. "You don't know what you're asking for." "Then let me find out." Silence again. Heavy, thick, but different this time. Not hesitation, clarity. She closed her eyes, exhaling slowly, and when she opened them again, there was no guard left in her. "We're already in it," she said softly. The weight of her words settled between us. No more running, no more pretending. We understood each other now, messy, raw, human. And neither of us looked away. The kiss lingered in the air long after we'd pulled apart, as though the room itself had shifted. The draft from the half-fixed window brushed against us, cool on my skin, but Clara's body was still close enough to keep me warm. She leaned back slightly, her hand sliding down my chest until it rested at my wrist. Not pulling away, just holding there, steadying herself. "We can't go back," she said softly, echoing her own words from before. I nodded. "I don't want to." Her eyes searched mine, as if weighing whether she could believe me. The weight of years was in her gaze, everything she'd lived through, everything she thought she was supposed to guard against. But underneath, I saw it again, that quiet, raw need she'd been hiding, the part of her that wanted to be seen. I lifted my hand, covering hers at my wrist. For a long moment, we didn't move. Just stood there, letting the silence settle into something less sharp, more real. "You're too young to carry someone like me," she murmured. I shook my head. "You're not something to carry." Her lips trembled, not with tears, but with a smile she tried to smother. She let out a laugh, small, almost disbelieving. "You make it sound so simple." Maybe it is. The word surprised even me, but they didn't feel wrong. Not with her standing this close, not with the warmth of her hand in mine. She sighed, leaning into me just enough that her forehead brushed my chest. My arms wrapped around her instinctively, pulling her close. For the first time, she didn't resist. She fit against me in a way that felt both new and inevitable, her breath soft against my shirt, her fingers curling lightly at my side. Neither of us spoke for a while. The city outside hummed, muffled through the glass. The world kept moving, but inside her apartment, time held still. Finally, she whispered, "If anyone finds out, they won't," I said. "Not unless we want them to." She pulled back just enough to look up at me, her eyes steady now. "And what if you change your mind?" I brushed a strand of hair from her face, tucking it gently behind her ear. My thumb lingered along her jaw, tracing the line of it. "Then I'd be a fool. And I'm not." Her laugh was quieter this time, but real. She leaned into my touch, her eyes closing for a moment as if surrendering to it. When she opened them again, something had shifted. The fear was still there, but it wasn't stronger than what lay beneath it. She took my hand, weaving her fingers through mine, holding tight. "Then, stay." I squeezed back, the answer already written in my touch. We didn't kiss again, not then. We didn't need to. The closeness was enough. The way her body softened against mine, the way her head rested against my shoulder, the way our fingers stayed locked together as though we'd found something neither of us wanted to let slip. The age, the risk, the shadows of the past, they were still there. But in that moment, none of it mattered more than the quiet certainty between us. I kissed her forehead, slow and steady, a promise without words. She closed her eyes, exhaling as though she'd been holding her breath for years. And just like that, the story we'd been circling finally became ours. Point 4.